Hello everybody, Sky McSparkle here. Today I'm joined with
Doug Nukem Dukem.
we just finished watching Avatar Way of Water. This is a non-spoiler review.
And thanks to Disney, we got to see it last week, and we saw it in Dolby 3D, so we got to see it in one of the best screens possible.
Yeah. So before we jump into our non-spoiler review, make sure you subscribe, become a member if you haven't already.
Yeah, so you just saw the original Avatar like a couple weeks ago,
Yep.
and you did a reaction on your channel, so you
did.
didn't have to wait 13 years like the most of us did.
No, I did not.
So what did you think?
I really enjoyed the first movie. Now going into this movie that just came out, comparing the two, something I really enjoyed seeing was the change in biomes. So the first movie was a forest biome. We got to see the tall trees, the creatures, the plants, and that was really lovely. And how the islands and the oceans and the tribe functions in the second movie, I think is just really beautiful. I loved Jake Sully's story in the first one, and in the second movie, I feel like essentially we're getting Jake Sully's story retold, but kind of in a more expedited process and more spread out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I actually like this sequel. After sat for a couple of days, I do like the original better, but I think this is a good sequel, and it would do very well. What I like is James Cameron brings you back that awe and wonder when you first saw Avatar in 3D, where you first experienced Pandora. You're like, oh my gosh, this amazing jungle. And then he did again with a whole different environment and water, and you get to see the differences in these tribes and the way of life and the integration, and how now it's expanded to a family dynamic with Jake Sully since the sequel.
Yeah. You want to know something? My friend Allie told me that when the first movie came out, people were depressed afterwards because they wanted to live in Pandora.
That's
so
very
bad.
true. Yeah.
I feel like people are going to be depressed again after seeing this movie because it was so beautiful.
They're gonna be depressed a second time because they love the original forest. Now it's like, oh my god, there's a water world that I always wanted. Yeah, they'll be depressed. Yeah. Overall, like the movie. It is 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Yes.
And when I was watching the movie, I did feel a drag, but in a good way, where it's like, I want to stay in this world as long as possible because I was just enjoying everything I was seeing on screen of how beautiful, vibrant, the mythology and everything of it. But then if I have to keep rewatching it over and over, I was like, dude, this movie drags a bit. I think James Cameron cut 10 to 15 minutes off the second act and 10, 15 minutes off near the end of the third act, where it felt like a drag. It'd be just a more tight and doesn't feel as draggy. But the thing is, when you first watching it, you just don't want it to end because of how much visually appealing it is.
Right.
For me, my experience of it.
Right. So this brings up something that I take note of, and I'm going to let you know. Let's talk about bathroom breaks because, I mean, you can dehydrate yourself and sit through the entire movie. Like, bravo. It's long, though. So, I mean, if you have a smaller bladder, let me help you out. In the movie, if there are times where you feel like, oh, we're just looking at like the reefs and just the nature portions, I'd say it's okay to go take a quick bathroom break. Don't take too long, but that would be the best times to do so.
And what's incredible is that these actors, a lot of them performed underwater. Like, they are actually performing this underwater, which does not really have been done too well to the extent. So just seeing like these long extended scenes of them just like as if they're living underwater and not trying to struggle to breathe for some of the scenes is incredible. So it definitely goes hats off on all the performance, and a lot of it is CGI with them as playing as not their avatars because they're integrated bodies.
Right.
So the Noris, and then I forgot the other tribe starts with an M, but excuse me, sorry, I didn't prep myself on the second tribe's name, but just to see the amount of artwork and the CGI artists had to do in this movie was incredible, and I feel like it was one of the most top notch. And the action of this movie, the second to third act, it's a long action scene, and it's good action, and it's, for me, it's like me looking at all the actions I've seen recently, and especially Phase 4 Marvel, feels bad compared to what James Cameron did of this one. It felt like a good amount of high quality action. It's like watching Terminator 2, where you had the chase scene with the Terminators chasing John Connor. And it's just like that good quality action for me.
And that's the thing. Like, before those action sequences happen, you need to use the bathroom. You're not going to want to use the bathroom because the way the story shifts and the momentum that comes from that, if you step away, you're going to be missing out on something, because there are just fun little beats. There's beats of humor, but there's also beats of story being told. Now, things I want to talk about the movie, like there were some negatives for me.
Yeah, I have some negatives too.
But before I get into the negatives, my favorite character had no actor.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. My favorite character was a creature.
Oh, yes, that's the creature. Okay.
Yeah. You'll know. It's a...
Yeah. I would have to say, if you like the original Avatar, you definitely would like this.
Sure.
If you didn't like the original, where it shows like the colonists destroying the world, destroying the peace, it's more
Humans
of it.
are the worst. That's the takeaway.
It makes more of you really hating people, and you want the I would say the natives tribes. It's kind of reminds me of colonial expansion back then. It's just you would hate regular people and still love the natives. So if you're okay with that, you still like it. If you didn't like that in the first movie, you still hate it. So, but okay. So I'm ready to go to negatives.
Okay. So negatives. The human race, Garbo. We should not be on other planets ever.
Even though human planet's dying?
Let it die. Okay. It's dying for a reason. So, second, the villain.
Okay.
Their motivation and how much firepower they had behind their motivation. Oh my gosh.
So you would
ridiculous.
say you found the story weak?
Yeah.
Okay.
I kept finding myself rolling my eyes.
Okay. So my opinion, the story is very simple and weak. Which is not a bad thing. Like, example, Top Gun Maverick had a very simple story, but they executed on all the other stuff that made the movie great. So I did find that the story is very weak. And I looked at other reviewers where I was talking to these traditional media people. They thought the story is complicated. And I was just like, what's complicated about this? So I think what they're adding stories when you're trying to understand the world of Pandora, the mythos, the way the environment, the creatures, how people, the natives interact with stuff. I guess that could add a story, but if you're looking for like what's the whole plot movie, it's very simple, which is simple. Okay, but I felt like they needed to put a little bit more depth into the villains. I felt like the villains in the first movie had not much of a depth behind the character or their real strong motivation besides being a bad, or being, people who's just trying to take over the world for resources. I feel like you have to give more reason if you're going to make a very simple plot.
So here's the thing. We have two types of villains. We have humanity, and then we have, like, the main villain guy. The thing is, like, we already know that humanity is just going to crash and burn everything they touch. But this guy, they tried to give the villain some depth. They tried to build some character. They gave him some growth, and growth happened. But it still didn't matter because their motivation remained the same. And that was what was weak.
I don't want to spoil anything. There was a small character growth near the end.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't much of a character growth.
I'm saying that there's growth, there's building, but that motivation for existing and like the unit, the firepower behind that, and how much they could do and manipulate versus humanity just drove me crazy.
Yeah. But I don't have much more to say of it overall, even though, we're critiquing the movie. I personally had a wonderful time with it.
It's a beautiful movie. I think you're all going to have a great time. I had a great time. I'm just getting into story because it's been some time.
Yeah, well, overall, I'm ready to give a score. I would say this is solid. Wait, are you?
No.
Is there more you need to say?
No. I'm just like, scores?
Yeah. So overall, I would give the movie I'm between a 9 and a 10, so I'll go split in 9.5. Yeah, I just thought. I think of
10?
Between a 9 and 10. Even though the movie dragged, the simple plot, I would say Top Gun Maverick's #1 of 2020 for me, and this is right there on the edge of it because of how good. That's my personal opinion. Because how rare do you experience a world in a cinema of you being transported with great CGI, great action, great mythologies of the characters of the world of Pandora. Seeing it in 3D, like 3Ds are a joke now. James Cameron brought 3D into modern world where it's more accessible in the original 2009 Avatar, and since then most 3Ds have been terrible after that. And James Cameron made it great again for me. So that's why I rated it that high, the second best movie of the year behind Top Gun Maverick, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, visually, I would rate it high. Tech, I would rate it high, but story-wise, I'm gonna give it an 8.
Okay,
I'm
cool.
gonna give. I mean, if I have to put a number on it, but the way I don't really do a number system. Here's how I usually rate a movie. It was a rainy day. It took us almost 2 hours just to drive to see that movie.
Right.
Luckily, only 40 minutes to come home. Was it worth my drive? Yes.
Okay.
So it was worth a long drive in traffic through LA. And I think you're going to have a great time seeing the movie. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below when you do see it yourselves. And if you haven't yet, how excited you are for it. But I won't be doing any spoilers in the comments. I know you guys are always like, please, I just want spoilers, but no.
Yeah, depending on how this video does, we might do a spoiler review after the weekend, just so people have time to see it. If if you guys want to, let us know in the comment section below.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and then also they can watch your original reaction to original Avatar on their channel right now, and there's a full-length reaction for members.
Yeah, and under the lurkers
right
tier.
And also you have a slime shop.
I do.
Where she actually, if you order slime from her shop at squishforinitiative.com, she actually hand makes it, writes a letter, and ships it herself, where you can get one of a mixed sparkle creation.
Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course.
And
even though we're in my office.
Yeah. Well, I love your face. I'll see you very, very soon. Bye.